Open the file. First thing you see is prompts you to enable content. You want to be able to use the worksheet until you enable content. Enable content will make some macros run, which will make the entire schedule work. So first thing we do is click enable content. And when you do that, it will prompt you saying that the schedule is loading and now it is available to be used. First sheet is going to be agency information. This worksheet is information about your agency. And so the first thing we need to do is determine what your agency ID is and enter it here along with your agency name. Now, if you don't know your agency ID, I suggest you use the agency search form, which is up here. We'll click it to open up the form, and this allows us to find our agency. Agency search form allows you to search by agencies by name or partial name, by parish, or agency type. This example, we're going to use name, or rather a partial name, nowhere. We're going to click here to search. When we click here, this box right here will show us our search results. Click here to search, and as you see, it updated it. And we are going to select the city of Nowhere as our agency. Likewise, I could have clicked reset, which will reset all this back to defaults. And I could click close form if I want to close the form. So I'll go back and click search again. And I'm going to click save nowhere. Then we'll click save data, which will save this information to these cells. And voila. Next, it needs to know, now if you need to edit your the name of your reporting agency to something else, you can edit here. But I'm going to leave it as is. Next, it needs the reporting agency period ended. Now, if you, as you know, notice this right here is error checks. So up here, there are no error checks because these are valid data. These are still blank, and so this is why these errors are prompting you to do something. So for the fiscal year ended, the period ended, I'm going to fill out this for the fiscal year ended 6/30/2022. And I press enter, and you see the error goes away as well as the beige color, which indicates an issue. Did you collect or disburse money during the year? I'm going to say that this agency did. So we'll go yes there, and click yes here about did my agency receive money. And when I filled out all this, these forms down here, worksheets, became available. So until I'm going to delete this to bring it back, bring the error back. See, they disappeared because there's an error here. So once the error goes away, the other worksheets become available. So first thing we're going to do is the collecting and dispersing worksheet. Now, this form contains data about getting cash balances, how much you had from prior years, total collections during the year, amounts that you retained, your agency retained. So in some cases, it may be a collection fee for other that you do to collecting money for other entities, or it may be that there are court cost laws that say are fine laws that you collect for yourself and therefore you retain, which is what goes into this section. This section is amounts dispersed to individuals and entities other than governments and nonprofits. So, for instance, third-party collectors, restitution, those type of things. So everything that goes to another entity other than a government and nonprofit would go here. This section is for monies dispersed to other governments and nonprofits. And this section will be filled out on another worksheet, which we'll discuss shortly. This is the total amount retained or dispersed. It's just adding up the information above. These are the ending balances for each period based on the information above. This section is any balance of partial payments that collect but not dispersed. Sometimes you may have money that is owed by, say, an offender, and they make a partial payment to you, but you don't actually disperse to get the full payment. So this is what those amounts will be recorded at. This section right here is for amounts that are assessed but not yet collected. So these are like the receivable balances. Offenders have been told they owe the money, but you have not collected on it yet. And this is for waivers that are made during the period. So let's say there was a $100 fine assessed to an offender. The offender did community service in lieu of the fine, and a waiver was granted against that fine. The total of those waivers would be presented here. Now you see all this data is split into two columns, the first 6 months and the second 6 months of the fiscal year. This column over here shows all your errors that you have. So let's go and fill this out. At the top, beginning cash balance, we're going to say we started off with $99 for this example. When I entered this in, you can see all these errors came in. Basically, it's just saying I need to enter a number here, 0, 1, something. So I'm going to enter 1 for saying that we collected $1 for civil fees during the first period, $1 of civil fees in the second period. I'm just going to copy this down for this example. As I copy stuff down, these numbers down, you can see the errors disappear and the highlighting goes away. Let's say if I delete this, you see how highlight comes back, and so does the error. So we're going to go and fill in 1 all the way down for this example. And when I fill in the last one, you'll notice a new worksheet will appear. And that's 5 disbursement detail. That is where you fill out the detail that will be wrapped up into these numbers right here. So let's discuss that one. This is the details of the disbursements that you send to other governments and nonprofits. When you first enter the worksheet, the data entry form will pop up. My suggestion is to always use this form when completing this worksheet because it makes things significantly easier. But let's talk about the form before we get to the worksheet before we get to the form. So this worksheet schedule is split up into several columns. First column you have is the agency receiving money. This is the government or nonprofit entity that you send your dispersing money to. This one is a disbursement description. Basically, it gives you an area to briefly describe the disbursement, the legal authority for that disbursement. This is an optional field, but it may be useful if you want to provide additional information for your readers of your financial reports. This is where your legal authority citations go. So whatever your revised statute is, or if a local ordinance you're using that authorizes the disbursement of money, this is where that would be recorded at. This is where your disbursement type, collection type will be recorded at. Your disbursement and collection type are basically these things up here, these categories up here. So those categories would be reflected into this column. Then you have first period amount and second period amount. So amounts you disperse during the first period, or first half and second half of the fiscal year. And then this column is telling you what errors that you may have with the data. And it just helps you identify if you have problems so you can correct those problems. So let's fill this out using the data entry form. I'm just going to click up here just to open it up. And the data entry form reflects the same data as the columns, right? So legal authority disperse money, legal authority disperse money, agency receiving money, agency receiving money, disbursement type, amounts dispersed are reflected as well. You have drop-down menus under each one of these. So under legal authority, you'll see all the laws that are associated with you, with your entity, that we've identified as your entity being the collector for. Here you have all the agencies that are associated with those laws that we just talked about. And we have the disbursement types that are associated with the laws we just talked about. Down here we have a box that shows whatever errors that may be in the data you entered above. On the right, you have an authority search form, an agency search form, which we'll talk about shortly. You have a save data, which takes the data you entered in here and posts it into the worksheet. You have a reset form, which resets the data here. And you have close form, which obviously closes the form. So I'm going to, generally speaking, if you have a lot of laws, you want to use the authority search form. If you have a lot of agencies, you want to use the agency search form. So we're just going to use the authority search form and show you what that does. So here you can search for the legal citations, the authority that you have to disburse the money. And you can search for those citations by description, by agency receiving the money, and by disbursement type. And you click here to search, and it'll update this field as similar to how the agency search form was. And I'm going to say, let's search for contempt. And so it limits to all the contempt citation. I'm just going to choose 25. Now, if I want to reset this, bring all this back to default, I just click the reset search, and it brings back all that to default. But let's go back and click contempt search 25. Now I'm just going to click save, and this save button will take this information and write it to this box. And it did. Now you notice the disbursement type was populated automatically. So what Excel is doing, the schedule is doing here, is saying, okay, with this particular law, the only disbursement type associated with that law is the criminal fines contempt. Therefore, Excel automatically populates the value there. So all you have to do is, for this one, would be to select the right agency. And I could go through here and select an agency. But I'm going to use agency search form to do this instead. So just like last time, I clicked the agency search form. I can search by name, by parish, by type. My search results are going to be down here. To search, I have to click here the search button. When I click Save Data, it will take what I selected here and put it into this box, reset, just like the legal search, the authority search. It resets the entire thing back to default, and close will close the form. So we're going to search for nowhere and click here to search. We're going to select the Nowhere City Court. And when I click Save, it's going to write it into here. And now, as you can see, the errors now are just, I got to enter a valid amount in these two boxes. And I entered one in, and now it's just one error. And you can see that the boxes that don't have errors are not beige anymore. They're white. Coloring always indicates, in the schedules, always indicates there may be an issue. So I'll put another one here, and that gets rid of all the errors. No more beige boxes. I'm just going to click Save Data, and it's going to take all this data here and write it up here. And there's the data. Let's say we need to go back and adjust something. We can click back on the previous row, and it automatically brings it into here. And let's say it was actually $2, not $1 on the second period. I'll put $2 there. It highlights it in blue. That blue indicates that this data has changed. And I'm satisfied with everything else, so I'm going to click Save again. And when I do it this time, it's going to tell me, hey, you may be overwriting existing data. and it tells me the second half amount is being changed from 1 to 2, and asks me, do I want to continue? And I'm just going to say yes, because I do. Continue. And now it changes the amount to 2. And that is how you use the data entry form of disbursement detail. Now let's talk about the receiving schedule. The receiving schedule is similar. When you enter it, the data entry form pops up. It's the same form, but the only difference is there is no authority to put in. There's no authority search. That's because legal citations are not required for the schedule. Let's close this real quick and talk about the schedule. So the first part of the schedule is any balance amounts assessed but not received. So these are receivables for your agency, the amounts that have been assessed for your agency but that have not been received from other collectors. I'm going to go ahead and just enter one in there. This information is required. This column right here, just as described, and just like some other worksheets, is error checks. If there's problems with the data you entered, it will show up here. The other parts of this worksheet are the agency remitting the money. So this is who is the agency that's sending you the money. The remittance type. So what is the type of money? Is it fines, bond refunds, etc. That's the type of stuff that goes here. This is the amounts for the first period, first half of the year, and amounts for the second half of the year. I'm going to open up the data entry form again, and let's go and fill it out. So unlike the other one, like I said, there's no legal search, no legal citation required. So all you have to do is fill out agency and remittance type. So I'm going to go ahead and go to agency search. It works just like the previous example. We're going to type in nowhere, click search, and we're going to type in Nowhere City Court. Click save, and it writes Nowhere City Court here. And then I'm just going to select a remittance type. We'll say cash bonds. And we'll just put 1 and 1 here, and I'll click save. And it wrote what we put there into the spreadsheet. And let's say I want to erase it. I go back, I click on it, it brings everything up, and I'm just going to click reset form, which means it deletes everything out of all these, but it also highlights in blue, indicating that I'm about to overwrite existing data. So I'm going to click save, and it explains that, I'm going, each of the things I'm going from, right? Collection type going from cash bonds to nothing, going from 1 to nothing, etc. I can, of course, scroll this to see it. And I click yes to override it. And when I do, it's gone. Now, every time you click save on any of these data entry forms, it'll move down to the next row for you. So, and I'm going to click close here. And now, when you go to exit, you'll be prompted with this window asking you what do you want to do. So here you can save and close the schedule. You can save without closing, or you can cancel it. So if I click cancel, it won't shut down. It'll just cancel the closing. Don't save, of course, we'll save without closing or with closing, and save will save and close it. So I'm just going to click save, and it closes it, and that's all there is to it.